Alrighty, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I'm back with another Starcraft 2 1 versus 1 bot AI cast. And I'm excited to say we've got another one of these best of threes here today. It's gonna be Zozo, the Protoss Cheese King, going to be taking on MicroMachine, the old but gold Terran warrior. And so we have got, just an interesting best of three. I literally just download 3 replays that these bots played, and then click on them, and we're gonna see what these bots are doing on the ladder all day against each other. And so, ladies and gentlemen, before we get too far into this one, make sure to go ahead, click that like button if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below saying more bots if you want to see more of these bot matches. And then subscribe if you're not already subscribed. But yes, most importantly, let me know if you do enjoy these best of threes in the comments down below. Very fitting that we're having a best of 3, as Zozo got 3rd place in the AI tournament. So it's just 3s all around, as we've got a Nexus going up for the Protoss bot. I'm a little surprised to see Zozo not cheesing or anything like that. It's known for going for proxy gateways, that kind of thing. MicroMachine, on the other hand, does tell us its strategy in the chat, saying going for early expand. And notably, it's also blocking its gas, so it doesn't get its gas stolen, which is very cool. Anytime that probe gets near, an SCV goes, "Oh, I gotta hold the door." But yeah, so Zozo is scouting out, MicroMachine expanding on the high ground, not the low ground. I mean, that's a design choice you gotta make as a bot author, whether you build all your command centers in the main and then float them out. A Terran exclusive design choice. Okay, we do have Zozo going for a battery at the front, getting up a stalker. MicroMachine does have a Reaper out and a SCV drilling a probe, as this Reaper does head into the main base of, or is heading towards the main base of Zozo. Who knows, it might turn around. But yeah, I do like Zozo's opening, just going for the quick battery at the natural, as long as it doesn't let this Reaper do too much damage. Like, I look at this and I think, this should be pretty good on paper for the Protoss bot, as, I mean, the Terran building the CC in the main, perhaps a little bit later, does give the Protoss just a slight advantage, but more of an advantage than they'd get if it was on location. But MicroMachine's bot author seems confident with that decision. And then we do have a Marauder on the way for MicroMachine, which is definitely not a bad move, as Zozo is known to go very stalker heavy. We also have a Stargate from Zozo that has yet to be used. Oh, we're going to be seeing Tempest out of the Protoss bot. It's kind of interesting casting these bot games and casting these best of threes, because, like, I have a general idea of how these bots play, but I don't necessarily know how they pick their strategies. A lot of them use build order history, that kind of thing. But it's not necessarily that straightforward. Scouting probe for Zozo does get hunted down and killed. Meanwhile, the Reaper of MicroMachine is still roaming around, going to check out that 3rd base. The Reaper really is alive and independent, just going around doing its thing. It does find another probe, though. I'm not sure where that probe was trying to go, because Zozo, like, it sent one past the 3rd Nexus, so it is trying to build a 3rd Nexus. Now, anyway. But then it's also sending this guy out down here, so, like, where are you going, guy? There's a Reaper out there, don't you know? A killer MicroMachine Reaper. As this probe just goes to hang out down here, apparently, so that's interesting. Maybe checking for hidden bases or something like that. Anyway, scouting is generally a good thing in these bot matches, as MicroMachine hasn't necessarily scouted that it's going up against a Tempest Rush. I say the word rush loosely because Zozo is making stalkers, getting up a 3rd and a Forge. So it has yet to use that fleet beacon, but there we go. A Tempest is now on the way. And yeah, that third Nexus is getting established as well with a battery at it, whereas MicroMachine is just powering up on 2 bases. MicroMachine may actually be getting aggressive here with its ragtag group of units. So far, the only thing that has died is 4 probes, thanks to this, well, the 1 SCV and the Reaper. So Zozo, I think, should be able to push this attack away most likely, as like 1 Tempest against 13 Marines is pretty good for the Tempest. There's also all the Stalkers, which are a factor. But Zozo will have to have, it wants to have a good defense here, but I don't think it's in any real danger of dying. MicroMachine does stim its Marines, sets up a tank on the low ground, as it does try and push its opponent, but there's the Tempest. MicroMachine now saying OP strat detected, panic mode activated, as it does head on home and probably is going to lay on that Viking production. Fortunately, it does already have 1 starport done with a second one on the way. And so MicroMachine does have a defined response for this kind of Tempest shenanigans, but knowing is only half the battle. As Zozo goes for a Robo as well behind this, just producing some Stalkers still, getting up a 4th Nexus. I do like the 4th Nexus. Zozo just trying to have a really great economy compared to MicroMachine. And then it is still just producing Stalkers, getting out a Prism. MicroMachine also is just not exactly rushing out as many Vikings as quickly as possible. It's just keeping a cool head, making Marines still, getting tanks out, getting +1. And so this could be a very interesting army composition we're going to see out of the Protoss bot. Tempest and Stalkers is not something I had on my bingo card. It should have been in hindsight, knowing Zozo, but anyway, it is going to be very notable as well whether we eventually do see +1 research for Zozo, whether we eventually see Blink research for Zozo. I think Blink is absolutely going to be massive in a situation like this, but Zozo seems to be prioritizing getting up units and production instead of getting up those upgrades, which is a choice you have to make as a bot author. Some of them conscious, some of them just the way your logic. Your bot does eventually get works. Your bot does eventually get most things, but yeah, you gotta kind of prioritize what you want it to do. Now, MicroMachine may have found this 4th base, as some Marines are running after the Tempest, but they do have a very, very nice location to retreat to. Now, the Marines do have combat shield done, and they actually almost get one of the Tempests. Some Vikings are coming in as well. However, there's a lot of Stalkers on the ground, more than enough Stalkers to actually deal with this force. As the Vikings are being pushed away, the 4th base is being saved, battery doing work, healing up that pylon. But all in all, a very solid defense by the Protoss bot, as it does look to counter-push against MicroMachine. The one thing we have to worry about for Zozo in this game is the potential of it getting just annihilated by siege tanks, as MicroMachine does have 4 of those, and the Stalkers presently have no upgrades. There's a Prism, but yeah, nothing else. A Mothership is on the way now for Zozo, so that's cool. That's actually something we don't see in bot games often at all. Now, Tempest are getting some shots off. Killing the Marines is actually quite nice. It's just if there's no bio, the Stalkers should do work on the ground. However, the tanks are doing lots of work on the high ground. Tempest, though, providing vision for Zozo to target those down. Things are looking pretty good for the red Protoss bot. However, there's MicroMachine with its mass amount of Vikings that it's pooled up, now coming forward, killing off pretty much all of those. Also, repairing the tanks is a big deal, and it does just that. The Vikings can also kill the Prism, too, as Zozo's offensive just got obliterated by MicroMachine. One more poor Tempest is coming forward. It's going to regret that. MicroMachine will have to contend with a Mothership in the future, but supplies really just got turned around, as MicroMachine, yeah, has just took a very good fight. Really patient, that kind of thing. Repairing the tanks was a nice touch. But I do think Zozo really suffered from a unit composition problem there. Like, Stalkers and Tempest, it's debatable whether that's the ideal comp, at least without Blink. So I do hope Zozo gets Blink at some point in this game. Now, Tempest are getting shots off on some of those Vikings. MicroMachine's entire army isn't here, so that's actually where Tempest thrive, in smaller unit engagements where they can get pickoffs. Stalkers on the ground are also helping zone out these Vikings, but they got to be careful not to zone those Vikings out all the way forward, so they walk into those siege tanks. Vikings are looking to go for a dive, but then they think better of it. We have 5 Stalkers being produced at a time for Zozo. Vikings are eating Tempest shots, as the Stalkers are doing a really good job zoning this. We do have a Thor out from MicroMachine, so I'm a big fan of that. Mothership comes in, utilizes Cloaking Field, which is very, very cool. MicroMachine does drop a scan, though, which is quite impressive, as it is an older bot, all things considered, but it does handle something like a Mothership Cloak quite nicely. Zozo does manage to hold on, though. The Protoss bot keeps its 4th base alive, not necessarily saturated completely. However, a 5th Nexus is on the way. The Toss is getting +1 attack, +1 shields. Twilight Council is on the way. That's also a very big deal. Blink will be huge, I think, for Zozo. It's a necessity. Now, whether it actually builds up 150 gas instead of just making units, that is another question entirely. The Protoss does have the Mothership, though, which is the crown jewel in its army presently, and it's going to need that Mothership to do some work, I believe, as Zozo is just continuing to produce Stalkers. I do like MicroMachine. It sends forward a scouting Marine, so then it really knows what base it wants to attack, it seems. Tempest are coming forward now. Presently, it's 6 Tempests against 12 Vikings. That's not the worst ratio in the world, as the Stalkers actually walk forward and get on top of the tanks, which really are their main predator in this game. So that actually went quite well for Zozo. Now, there is a Banshee inside the main base, though. That is problematic, as we do actually have no detection for the Protoss bot, which I'm not sure is a hole or not in Zozo. It's got a cannon at the 4th base, cannon at the natural, no cannon inside the main base, as we do now. Okay, there's even one at the 3rd, so that seems to be Zozo's way to address those cloaked harassing units sometimes. However, we do actually get an observer made, which is very, very important. This Banshee, though, is killing off a decent number of probes. I was going to say so many, but I guess that it's been running around all over the place. Phoenix pops out, Observer is out, so that Banshee may actually get shut down. Meanwhile, there is also a push going on. This game is really, really chaotic, as the Tempest are trying to push those Vikings away, and they're doing a decent job of it. The Stalkers on the ground are just worth their weight in gold, as they really do zone out those Vikings. Currently, we've got 6 Tempests to 10 Vikings. That's not bad for the Toss. However, the Thor is actually a threat to those Tempests as well. The Immortal may be able to deal with that Thor. MicroMachine is having one of its bases pushed. The Terran bot is more aggressive when it comes to expanding, though, compared to its opponent, as MicroMachine has got its entire side of the map taken, where Zozo just has its 5th up. Vikings are diving on top of these Tempests, and looks like they may be pushed back. I think that was a Tempest or 2 dying, perhaps. Zozo notably seems to be limited by its gas still, as it's building up a mineral bank, very short on gas. No blink has been researched yet either. A Banshee being a nuisance at that 5th base. And we are now having another engagement in the middle of the map. Stalkers being very aggressive and pathing forward do kill off the Thor, do kill off the tank. And as long as there's Stalkers in the mix, that's very, very important, because the Vikings are having a hard time committing on the Tempest when there's all these Stalkers present. So the Tempest are actually doing some work. We see the Vikings trying to get an attack angle set up, as the Stalkers, though, do reposition to the left. I also want to say, it's a little thing, but it's very cool. Zozo did actually warp in, or, well, produce some Zealots, probably because it did have such a gas shortage, which is actually good to see, that it wouldn't just waste that potential production. Now, Tempest are still shooting away, working on some of these Vikings. It's presently 12 Vikings to 4 Tempests. This is quite the prolonged battle. Stalkers are going to find another Thor and kill that off. Vikings do go for the dive on top of the Tempest, despite a few Stalkers being near. Bio is moving forward to support as well, as it looks like the Vikings will kill off most, if not all, of these Tempests. Yes, every single Tempest is dead. Zozo is now just producing Immortals and Stalkers against the Bio Thor tank composition of MicroMachine. The Protoss bot is still mining at a decent rate, so it may be able to maintain this trade. Stalkers are getting on top of the Thor, going to pick that off. Another tank is actually going to fall victim to this MicroMachine supply. Is misleading due to all the Vikings that it has produced. And now Stalkers are actually pushing in towards the natural of MicroMachine. What a great game this is between these two. I think there may be a tank in the back shooting somewhere. Yes, there is. A Stalker actually gets on top of that. Another tank bro pops out. Vikings should be landing for MicroMachine. Or they hopefully should be, but of course it doesn't really know whether the air threat has stopped or not completely. Zozo is just pumping out more Stalkers, more Immortals, adding in Phoenix to its composition now, which is interesting. These two tanks are picking off lots of Stalkers. MicroMachine has seemed to have stabilized the front, at least for now, and it was looking a little dicey there. The Immortals will definitely do some work against all these Marauders, the tanks potentially, but Banshees for MicroMachine are picking off lots of Zozo's units here. All of a sudden, we do have 3 Banshees reigning supreme. Now the Tempest are out of the equation. There is a single Observer for Zozo, which is very important, but look at this. MicroMachine was getting pushed hard, and now, all of a sudden, it's the one that's going for a push with a whopping 7 siege tanks that are not going to be easy to break with Stalkers. There is a counterattack by Zozo, though. This actually makes MicroMachine say cancel offensive, so it may be bringing those units home, which is kind of best case scenario for Zozo, killing off one of MicroMachine's bases, although it does want to keep its own bases alive, as Zozo has got many fewer bases than its opponent. Battlecruiser gets injured, teleports on out of there. Stalkers are moving forward. They do need to pick off that tank, and they will. Presently, army supply, though, is down for Zozo. MicroMachine does have better upgrades than the Protoss bot. And now with Zozo losing that 5th base, that really does hurt, as MicroMachine is trying to clean up this army here. Seems like Zozo's force has crumbled and just been dismantled by MicroMachine. The command center barely stays alive, but if we take stock, the Protoss bot is at 83 supply to 143. And now Zozo, yeah, I think maybe dead, as MicroMachine is pushing on in towards that 4th base. The trades were decent throughout most of the game for Zozo, like resources lost. Obviously not in its favor at this point, but it was relatively close. So, yeah, not bad. I do apologize. I had a bit of a frog in my throat there. Zozo never getting Blink is definitely a big factor in this game, I think. It got the Twilight Council, but then it never got the research, which just goes to show that as a bot author, you can have these things that you program your bot to do, and it's intended to get. But in the end, Zozo was probably just spending all its money on Stalkers, which are cheaper than the Blink upgrade. So that's the kind of thing you got to consider as a bot author, like adding in a production pause when you want to get other tech, as, yeah, that Blink maybe would have changed things for Zozo. So hopefully we do see Blink in the next match from the Red Protoss. That's why this was a best of 3, though, and I'm actually very glad I chose to do a best of 3 between these two, as this was a really great match between them. And yes, so stay tuned. I'll fast forward us to end this game. MicroMachine has got 15 tanks in all now. Yeah, that's pretty hard to beat with just Stalkers for the most part. GG. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so here we are into our next match. It's going to be Zozo against MicroMachine once more, of course. It's best of 3. And yeah, that last game was phenomenal between the two of them. So who knows, maybe we'll get that same magic, hopefully. Personally, I do hope for different builds from the bots, but Programming's a pretty linear thing, so you can't be surprised if you have two games back to back that are similar matches. Zozo does come in here with a scouting probe, just seeing that everything's good. No crazy cheese, which is interesting. So I do wonder how Zozo picks its builds. We know MicroMachine picks its based off of win rate, that kind of thing. But who knows? Maybe we can read the description of Zozo and we'll find our answer. So Zozo, written by Sam Ogon, is obviously a Protoss bot. And then it is written in Python. Created August 2022, the 24th of August that is. And then the 6th of May 2025 was the last time it was updated, which checks notes is the day I record this. And so, yes, that is actually very cool that Zozo's bot author is very darn active. And the description is, it's fairly long, but it's Zozo was initially meant to be a sparring partner, a worker rush bot, which if you ask Ketrock, he'll tell you that's where it had its evil origins of being a very good worker rush bot. And we sometimes see that when it uses its probe micro defensively. Now, yeah, looking ahead, it appears Zozo continues to focus on cheese. Nevertheless, there is potential for development in the middle stage of the game. A nice list of achievements. The bot author needs to update that list as they did come third in the 2025 ProBots tournament. MicroMachine double blocking its Vespene Geyser there, so maybe having a little bit of a bug in that it didn't realize it already had an SCV there. But then it went ahead and built that refinery at the end there, so that's fine. I do apologize if my voice is a little bit hoarse. It's bizarre because I haven't been casting that much, but then I also don't feel sick, so it's like, what's going on, guy? Anyway, if it does become too much of an issue, I'll just recast the game or something. You don't need me casting like Kermit the Frog. Although I guess I could do that, but I'm not prepared to share my Kermit the Frog impression with you guys. It needs some work still. I feel like Kermit the Frog is also probably one of the easier impressions to do because you just like I don't know, you just don't really have to imitate anything. You just kind of change your voice a little bit. Yes. But now we have got a tech lab on the way for MicroMachine. 2 racks play, CC floated to the low ground, tank on the way too. Now, Zozo does have a Stargate on the way, so I think we are going to be having a rehash of the previous match. Now, results may vary. That's why I made sure we were on a different map for this match, because maps definitely can affect win rates, terrain for Tempest, that kind of thing, rush distance. All those things are factors in bot games. And then, yeah, let's just have a quick look at MicroMachine's page. Hasn't been updated in a long time, very understandably. Written by Raffer, Terran in CPP Linux, which is actually C++, I believe. And it is a bot that plays a few builds, gives us a description on all of those. And it has a combat simulation library to decide how to take its fights, how to micro its units. Apparently, MicroMachine used to be open source and downloadable, but too many authors abuse this by developing snipes in secret for tournaments, so it's not anymore. But apparently, they say, write the author if you want to play versus MicroMachine. I believe, probably in the link of this description, there's also a program where you can play versus the bots, for those of you wondering. It's a very fun thing to do. I might have to do that sometime soon, again. And then there's just a nice little description. I do hope we get an update from MicroMachine just to fix the one bug with infestors from Cannon because I believe there's a bug which causes it to crash in longer games against Cannon where Cannon I want to say it like neurals a unit or something, and then MicroMachine doesn't know how to handle that. Someone pinpointed the issue, but that's something that could hopefully be fixed. Not much of a change, just a fix so it doesn't just crash out in that matchup. But if the bot author doesn't want to update it, that's understandable. And now we've got MicroMachine panicking, still going for its attack. So we are having a similar game to the previous one. We'll see whether this goes any better for Zozo. There is Stalkers and a Tempest at the front, so that Cyclone has a bad time, disappears into thin air. For those of you wondering, it is because of the client or bot version why we don't necessarily have all the death animations, although I'll make a note to inquire about that. Maybe there's some sort of fix that could be developed for that. Who knows? There we go. It's in my mile-long notepad, or my mile-long reminders on my phone of things that I need to do. MicroMachine still has its Reaper being a nuisance. The Tempest sees an end to that Reaper, so that's unfortunate. The Terran bot does seem to want to move out again, but Viking production is already rolling to try and counter these Tempests, so it's going to come down to the engagements. The positioning of the armies as to whether we get a similar result or not. Okay, MicroMachine does a nice job fanning out its Marines, evenly splitting them up. Zozo even pulls some probes into the fight, but there are Stalkers coming forward. The tanks aren't sieged yet, which could be a big problem if Zozo pursues. It does almost get one tank, however, that stays alive. That one Marauder kind of distracted Zozo, which is probably the best for MicroMachine because the tanks really are the key, or one of the keys. Tanks and Vikings, and you'll pretty much beat any amount of Stalker Tempest, I believe. The Terran bot does have a third on the way now. And then we've got, let's see, Combat Shield, +1, +1, that kind of thing rolling. Multiple cannons are going on up for Zozo. Batteries too, so that's what we saw help try and counter those Banshees harassing in the previous match. But now Zozo's getting ready to go for an attack. It's got an army supply lead. We've got 4 Tempest against 7 Vikings. 3 tanks are out. Tank positioning really matters for MicroMachine. It does have quite a few in a nice position, but they are unsieging presently. 1 siege is up. Stalkers are walking forward for Zozo. So that tank does die. Tempest are firing away, but the Vikings are still zoned out. This is a lot of Protoss at the third of MicroMachine. There is a tank on the high ground, though, shelling away on those Stalkers. That needs to be taken care of as soon as possible. There's also the Prism Micro going on for Zozo, which is massively important, pulling back those injured Stalkers with the Prism, preventing deaths. Vikings for MicroMachine do seem like they're going for the big dive. Stalkers do give them pause, though. The Terran bot is losing some SCVs, as this push looks fairly formidable. That one tank in the back is really what's keeping MicroMachine alive in this game, but the third command center has been lifted off. Tempest Star's still shooting away, killing off SCVs that are rallying, perhaps to repair that burning orbital command. The Vikings of MicroMachine are afraid. Their behavior, it's like, all right, we got to dive, but then we can't because there's either too many Tempests, not enough Vikings, or too many Stalkers nearby. Vikings do go for the dive. They don't get 1 Tempest, but now they're flying over those Stalkers, so they turn around. They do almost get 1 other Tempest, but not quite. That orbital is still burning down as SCVs, they keep trying to be heroes and going and repair that burning orbital, but it's just not quite happening. MicroMachine does seem to give Zozo a little bit of pause, though, as the Protoss bot backs off the command center, so close to burning down. Come on, SCV, do it. Oh my gosh, that is a very lucky command center, as MicroMachine's SCVs are heroes. Give them a medal, as now MicroMachine is attempting to get a 4th base on location. It already has it up, but it will need that, as that 3rd base did get taken care of. Tanks are shooting away still. Marauders coming forward, but supplies are looking mighty fine for Zozo here. And yes, this isn't looking super hopeful for MicroMachine. It's now 5 Tempest to 5 Vikings. Anyone who plays Terran will tell you that's not a good time. The tanks are still doing work, but now, yeah, there's no answer to the Tempest presently. SCVs repairing the tanks is keeping them in the game, which is a big deal. But now, let's see, Cyclone trying to do some work. Tanks are all going down. Vikings do decide to move forward. There is only 3 Tempest here presently, so they're actually doing okay. They do have +1 attack as well, so that is 1 dead Tempest. Do we have 2 dead Tempest? Yes, we do. 3 dead Tempest, perhaps. A Marine even getting in on the action, going to hunt that down. The Prism also kind of just didn't know where to go, so it ended up getting shot. The problem is Zozo has remaxed and is now getting ready for an attack. MicroMachine going for a little bit of a counter, but going to see all this toss and have a little bit of fear, perhaps. The Terran bot has got a Banshee on the way. No Cloak research, though, so that's unfortunate, as Cloak Banshees can sometimes bring a bot or a player back in a game, but that doesn't seem to be a tool available for MicroMachine. Zozo is pushing on in. Stalkers and Tempest going for the attack to the natural base of the Terran, as these Tempest are really just doing a good job fanning out. And yeah, I think Zozo pretty clearly has won this game. So what do you know? We're actually going to have a 3-game best-of-3, despite MicroMachine supposedly being the favorite based on its own win rates that it provided. And yes, so I will get us into another replay after this one. And it just goes to show the little things. It was the same strategies from both these bots, but then MicroMachine did end up going down. I did kind of fast forward through that Viking dive, but I'm pretty confident when a game's over. So yes, that command center, SCVs getting taken care of. The main base, there's a tank doing lots of work on the high ground there. But seeing as how MicroMachine is on effectively half a base, that is going to be it. So I'll update that scoreboard there. All right, GG. All right, here we are into game number 3 of this best of 3. Would you look at that? And yes, it has been very interesting seeing these two go head to head. So let's do it again. At this point, I'm thinking we probably will get the same build from each of them. But it's currently 1-1, so who's gonna do it better? What little things are going to happen? I think it was just the quick rush distance that probably favored Zozo on the previous map, as like when Zozo went to attack, MicroMachine had some of his tanks on the high ground in the back, but then it also lost one fairly quickly. It really is little things impact a game in a big way. I mean, we also had Zozo lose 4 probes in one of the games that it lost, so that could have been why. It could have been why. That was the game it lost. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the game it lost 4 probes. So, but it didn't do that in the second game. So maybe that's why. So we'll have to keep an eye out for a Reaper killing 4 probes. MicroMachine wants its second gas badly, so it does plop an SCV on there to make sure it doesn't get blocked. The Terran bot just doing its thing as Zozo goes for a scout and gets up its own gateway into Nexus. Zozo saying tag check natural squad. Sounds interesting. I'm guessing that's just a probe. Having a peek around, making sure there's no crazy proxy, which is a little ironic because Zozo is the cheeky cheese bot. So making sure it itself is not being cheesed. This probe is still running around the base of MicroMachine. We'll see if that Reaper pops out and kills it. I think it's going to have a bad time unless it does actually head on out of there, although the Reaper's popping out. But it does check the natural first. Run, probe. Run if you know what's good. And the Reaper does just go into scouting mode. So that is a very, very lucky probe. And that's another decision you got to make as a bot author. Little things like that. Do you want to program your Reaper? Like, of course, you're going to program it to scout, most likely. But if it sees a probe, or if you know there's a probe near, do you want it to try and chase that down? Little things like that you have to decide. sometimes it's just a matter of doing whatever's easiest or programming things one way and leaving them that way. All right, so Reaper is scouting out for MicroMachine. There's a Stargate on the way for Zozo. And this does look like a bit of an unfriendly Reaper map. Not exactly a ton of places for the Reaper to get in there. One probe is trying to head out. The Reaper actually grenades the probe backwards, which may have saved its life as it was on a dangerous path. The only other place the Reaper can jump up on this map is this little line here, but I'm not sure MicroMachine's capable of getting its Reaper up a location like that. It also is primarily a scouting Reaper, so it's just looking all over the map for any sort of danger. Any sort of danger. Now we do have Stim on the way for MicroMachine once more. Zozo just doing its thing. As this Robo is on the way as well. Yeah, I mean, I think I've done a pretty good job casting 3 Zozo games and not pointing out that it doesn't get Warp Gate. And now I got a second to fill, so I can go ahead and point that out. That is my one wish for Zozo. We're going to get it one day. And then Zozo will climb to the top of the ladder. It's going to just start winning every single game. That kind of thing. As we do now have Stim on the way for MicroMachine. Factory on the way. Siege tanks out for the Terran, and we are getting that bunker gas mining for MicroMachine. So that is something that isn't available on every map, and this is one of the coolest features that MicroMachine does, in that it builds a bunker between the two gases. And once that bunker is done, those SCVs will use the bunker sort of as like a warp gate, basically, to teleport in and out to have that speed mining. So you, in a way, can speed mine, or mine more optimally. And there it goes. SCVs in and out, and away they go. The Reaper is still moving around. It has actually killed 2 probes. Pardon my observing for missing that. If you got a problem with my observing, you can leave a comment down below and let me know. And yes, let's see here, as we've got a 3rd Nexus going up for Zozo. It is right at the front here. And then we have got a Stalker on the way here for the Protoss bot. Tempest building as well. MicroMachine has yet to scout this, and it's actually going for a move out. Is it just me, or does this move out seem a little bit quicker than the previous one? I do wonder what that's about. Like, Zozo doesn't have a Tempest out, whereas it did in the previous 2 move outs. So this could be problematic for the blue Protoss bot. 1 Stalker goes down. They are targeting down the Marines quite well. Of course, once this Tempest does pop out, that should be enough for Zozo to save this. Zozo says tag Tempest, so now it knows, well, it's got a Tempest out. The tank for MicroMachine actually does go down, so losing in a tank on the assault may have repercussions in the long run for the red Terran bot. MicroMachine is rallying some SCVs, long distance mining, now building that 3rd command center on location. And MicroMachine finally knows it's up against Tempest. Good job, Reaper, identifying that, so Viking production can begin. We've got Combat Shield going on up for MicroMachine, so getting all those upgrades that are good. Meanwhile, the SCVs still doing their speed mining. Reaper finds another probe, potentially trying to grab a 4th base. MicroMachine's Reapers are an absolute menace, man. 6 probes dying this game, 5 of them killed by that Reaper. We'll see if there's going to be another expansion attempt by Zozo soon, or whether that Reaper is able to kill it. I'm wondering if Zozo sends out the probe. Like, okay, it is just going to build the Nexus now, but I noticed earlier it was sending them out earlier, so I kind of wonder if it sends the probe ahead to scout out, which isn't a terrible approach to confirm a base isn't blocked or anything like that. Now MicroMachine is looking to move out. Once again, this is a bold move out by the Terran bot. 18 Stalkers and 2 Tempest against 6 Marauders, 11 Marines, 2 tanks, a Cyclone, And 5 Vikings. There's a battery at the front. Probes are being conscripted into the fight. They actually buffer long enough to save that battery's life, which is very important because now battery overcharge does get popped for Zozo. And MicroMachine heads on home. The Terran bot does now have a 4th command center on the way, so both bots getting a 4th. Zozo investing in cannons, getting up that static defense. We have got another scouting probe for Zozo running for its life, going to find that expansion, which we'll have to pay attention to that, because if Zozo launches its next attack towards that expansion, that would be interesting, showing use of that scouting. The Protoss bot, though, still just adding in more Tempest, more Stalkers, that kind of thing, getting up some extra gateways. Banshee coming forward for MicroMachine, going to be looking to get some harassment done. However, there's no cloak, so it may meet a quick end, but Zozo is just moving out. Oh, pardon me, there actually is cloak. Apparently I was looking at the wrong upgrade or something. Cannons, though, will help zone that out, but look at that. The Banshee does have a big effect. Zozo, though, is going for an attack now across the map, running into a lot of bio and tanks at a very nice concave. There are the Tempest shooting away, though. Vikings do go for it as the Stalkers help shoot down a few of them. I don't think a single Tempest died in that engagement, though, so that's actually quite good for Zozo. MicroMachine burning a lot of units to clean this up. A Banshee, not being detected presently, though, is going to be able to shoot away at these Stalkers and will help chase that army back momentarily. Big losses for the Terran bot, though. An Observer shows on up as well, so rest in peace that Banshee. The Protoss bot is now building up a 5th base. MicroMachine adding in a Thor, getting out some more Vikings. The Thor could definitely help out, as they're actually phenomenal against Tempest in this day and age. There was a time in Starcraft 2 where they were garbage, but now they're pretty darn good. MicroMachine is having this base be attacked by Zozo, the Protoss bot not wasting any time. The Terrans wholly out of position, trying to build a 5th base. SCVs, if they get out, this won't be the biggest loss in the world, but these Stalkers are moving in to corner them as the SCVs run under the bugged water texture there. MicroMachine is repositioning, but it's a little bit too late for that one. So things are looking pretty good for Zozo, as the blue Protoss bot, I think, may have the most supply we've seen from it so far at 178. There's Tempest coming on in to deal with these tanks. Fortunately, they do actually back off. MicroMachine has got 10 Vikings out. Where are they? Grouping up back at the base. So the tanks are potentially fighting out without the support of the Vikings. This is a big loss for MicroMachine, losing the tanks to the Stalkers. The Thor's at the front now, too. If that goes down, that will definitely hurt. And that's most of the anti-ground forces gone, as MicroMachine didn't really split its army properly there, as, yes, big losses happened for the Terran. It's now producing 7 Vikings at a time, which is very good for the anti-Tempest, but then there's 21 Stalkers out. So Zozo is pushing on in very effectively here, and things are looking quite rough for MicroMachine. I'm not sure there's a single tank on the map, and no, there isn't. So another command center is going to die, as Zozo is just continuing to push on in right now. MicroMachine is definitely having a bit of a tough time. It's got the Vikings to kill the Tempest. It just needs to get out units to deal with the other things, but we're seeing that there may just be a few too many Vikings and not enough other things for MicroMachine, as now the 4th base is being cleaned out. The Natural's been gutted. Zozo just taking a good fight, seizing the opportunity, and then crushing MicroMachine. As once those tanks died, MicroMachine was basically dead, and there was nothing that could really be done about it. The Terran bot doesn't have the supply to take this engagement. It's got a combat simulator, and the combat simulator is saying, no way, man, as these Vikings are all just like, what do we do? There's 19 of them. They could probably kill all the Tempests, but then all the Stalkers are the main threat. And that is the thing with these air-ground compositions. You gotta respect the air units, but then you can't forget about the ground units. So well done by Zozo. Actually going to take this best of 3. I wasn't sure about it. Yeah, but really, really well done. As MicroMachine does go down, there may be a little bit of replay selection bias, like I cast a longer replay first, and then like a mid-length replay. and then a shorter-ish replay for game number 3. And so who knows, maybe MicroMachine does win the games that trend longer. So that's something to consider. But yeah, a very cool best of 3 between these two. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're still watching up until this point and you haven't already, click that like button. Leave a comment down below saying more bots if you want to see more of these bot matches. Subscribe. And then, yeah, if you do want to support these daily bot videos, consider becoming a YouTube member. And big thanks to everyone that does do that. Now, MicroMachine will unfortunately meet its end. I think I'm probably going to do a video playing versus the bots sometime soon, as they are just very fun to play against. So, yeah, let me know if you guys do want to see some matches playing against the bots. MicroMachine going to be revealed. GG.